Most men don't wake up one day and realize they feel disconnected. It happens quietly. They're still functioning, still showing up, still doing what needs to be done, but something feels off. They feel distant from their partner, from their friends, sometimes even from themselves. And the most confusing part is this: nothing looks wrong from the outside, yet internally there's a sense of separation, like watching life through glass instead of living inside it. This disconnection isn't sudden, it's cumulative, and it usually has nothing to do with laziness, selfishness, or emotional incapacity. It has everything to do with how men are taught to survive emotionally. The first layer of disconnection. For many men, disconnection begins with a simple rule learned early: handle it yourself. Not because anyone said it cruelly, but because that's what worked. When you were upset, you distracted yourself. When you were confused, you figured it out. When you were hurt, you moved on. And at first, this created resilience. But resilience without reflection slowly turns into emotional distance, not just from others, but from your own inner experience. Most men don't feel disconnected because they don't care. They feel disconnected because they learned to manage emotions alone. When you grow up handling everything internally, you stop checking in with what you actually feel. You stay functional, you stay productive, but you lose emotional contact, with yourself and with others. Disconnection isn't a failure of effort. It's a side effect of emotional self-containment practiced for too long. Why men feel fine, but not fulfilled. One of the most common phrases disconnected men use is, "I'm fine," and they mean it in a narrow sense. They're not falling apart, they're not in crisis, they're not overwhelmed. But fine isn't the same as connected. Connected men feel engaged, alive, emotionally present. Disconnected men feel neutral, and neutrality, over time, becomes emptiness. The cost of emotional self-sufficiency. Men are praised for emotional independence, for not needing too much, for staying composed, for not leaning on others. But emotional self-sufficiency has a hidden cost. You stop letting others reach you. And connection requires permeability. It requires letting someone affect you, not control you, not overwhelm you, but reach you. Disconnection happens when nothing gets in. Men are often taught that needing less makes them stronger. But emotional connection requires allowing impact. It requires letting someone's words, presence, or concern matter. When men pride themselves on not needing anything, they don't just avoid dependency, they avoid connection. Strength isn't emotional isolation. Strength is staying open without losing yourself. Why relationships feel distant? In relationships, disconnection often shows up subtly. Conversations stay practical. Emotions feel muted. Conflicts get minimized instead of explored. A man may think he's being calm. His partner may feel he's being unreachable. This gap grows not because of lack of love, but lack of emotional access. And emotional access is something most men were never taught how to give safely. A small but telling example. A man comes home tired. He says, "Long day." His partner asks, "Do you want to talk about it?" He replies, "It's fine." And it is, functionally. But what's missing is emotional translation. He didn't say, "I feel drained. I feel unappreciated. I feel under pressure." Not because he's hiding, but because he doesn't know how to enter that space without feeling exposed. Disconnection often looks like calmness, but calmness without emotional access becomes distance. And men don't withdraw because they don't care. They withdraw because they don't know how to share without feeling like they're losing control. Silence feels safer than saying the wrong thing, but silence slowly erodes intimacy, the masculine fear. No one names. Underneath disconnection is a fear most men never articulate. If I open up, I won't know how to stop. They fear emotional flooding. They fear becoming overwhelmed. They fear losing composure, so they stay regulated by staying distant. But regulation through distance isn't regulation. It's avoidance. and avoidance always creates separation. Why men feel disconnected, even with friends. Many men have people around them, but no one with them. They talk about events, ideas, plans, rarely about fear, doubt, grief, or longing. Not because they don't have those feelings, but because there's no language for them. Friendship becomes activity-based, not emotionally anchored. And over time, men feel alone in the company. Men can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. Connection isn't about proximity. It's about emotional recognition. And when conversations never move beyond performance or facts, men don't feel seen. They feel tolerated. And without emotional acknowledgement, even strong bonds begin to feel thin. Disconnection from self comes first. Before men feel disconnected from others, they feel disconnected from themselves. They stop asking, what do I actually feel? Like, what do I need right now? What matters to me? They replace those questions with, what should I do? What's expected? What's efficient? Over time, the inner world goes quiet, not peaceful, just unheard. This is where burnout is misunderstood. Many men label disconnection as burnout. They think they need rest, a break, a change of scenery. But rest doesn't fix emotional disconnection. Only reconnection does. And reconnection requires slowing down enough to feel again. Men often mistake disconnection for exhaustion, but you don't feel empty because you're tired. You feel empty because you've lost contact with your emotional self. No amount of productivity or distraction fixes that. Only presence does. Reconnection begins when men stop managing feelings and start listening to them. What reconnection actually looks like. Reconnection isn't dramatic. It's not emotional dumping. It's not sudden vulnerability. It's small moments of honesty. I don't know how I feel yet. That actually hurt more than I expected. I feel distant, and I don't know why. These are not weaknesses. They are doors. If this feels familiar, stay with this channel. This space exists to give men language for experiences they've lived through silently, without forcing them to become someone they're not. Why men stay disconnected, even when they want more. The desire for connection is there. What's missing is permission. Permission to feel without collapsing. Permission to speak without being judged. Permission to need without shame. Men don't need to become different. They need to become more internally available. Men don't stay disconnected because they want to. They stay disconnected because no one showed them how to reconnect without losing dignity. Connection doesn't require oversharing. It requires honesty at your own pace. And when men learn that, they don't become weaker. They become more present. Men feel disconnected not because they lack emotion, but because they learn to survive without expressing it. What once kept you stable may now be keeping you distant. Reconnection isn't about becoming emotional. It's about becoming accessible to yourself first and then to others. That's where clarity returns. That's where meaning rebuilds. That's where men stop feeling like observers in their own lives. If this helped, let it settle. And when you're ready, come back. This channel isn't about changing who you are. It's about helping you come back to yourself without losing your ground.